Yo, what is going on everyone? It's me, Mr. Premps, and I am back with another One Piece review. And today we're taking a look at One Piece chapter 1010. And oh my gosh, what the hell was that chapter? Chapter 1010 was a 10 out of 10. Clearly the best chapter of Wano so far, and I am so hyped. I've actually got so many questions after reading this chapter, and I might need to go and read it another 20 times, just to make some sense of a few things. But to be honest, instead of recapping the previous chapter and discussing the cover page, let's get straight into the chapter, which was called Conqueror's Haki. And what a fitting title for that chapter, because this is the most explanation that we've got of Conqueror's Haki in the whole story, since chapter 1. Now the chapter starts off where we left off last chapter, and that's with Big Mom. Some people were happy with her falling off the edge of Onigashima, whereas others weren't, as they felt like it was a cheap cop-out. And Kaido was definitely in the second group of people, because he was not impressed by Big Mom, by calling her pathetic and an invalid, and if we go by my own translation, he's basically calling her useless. But Kaido seems to have a soft spot for his little Lin Lin, because he tells Zoro to stop cutting up Prometheus and to let him go and save Big Mom, which at the time was probably in Zoro's best interest, as Law couldn't believe Zoro's durability and how he was able to keep going after receiving that joint attack from Big Mom and Kaido in the last chapter. I mean, the impact of that attack was so significant that Law believes that every bone in Zoro's body is probably broken, and that's coming from a doctor. But back to Kaido, because as he goes to attack Zoro in order to allow Prometheus to escape, Law quickly intercepts this and attacks Kaido with a new move that I don't actually believe that we've seen before, and it stems from the move Injection Shot, but this time it's the curtain variant. And what I really like about this is that it builds on the dialogue that the supernova have had in the last chapter as to whether their attacks were hurting these Yonko. And it's actually confirmed that they are, because this attack by Law causes Kaido to cough up blood, and we have Kaido voice his frustrations in regards to Law's ability almost being an annoyance. But at the same time, Zoro also highlights his frustrations with Law, as he's letting Prometheus get away, in which Law responds to just let Prometheus go, as it's not worth one of them dying. Now I for sure love all of this dialogue, because this really shows that even in the midst of battle, Law was still using his brain, working out exactly what was going on and the risks that were associated with it. However, Zoro was on the complete opposite end of this spectrum, but we'll touch on that in a minute, because Kid and Killer ran off to go and fight Big Mom, and Kid highlighted that the whole aim of this was to separate the two Yonko, and they've done this now. So him and Killer would now be able to go on and take Big Mom, leaving Kaido to the others. And honestly, this is quite impressive by Kid, because clearly he must be confident in his skills, particularly if he truly believes he can take on Big Mom. So I'll see what happens with that soon. But something none of us really expected was Prometheus to actually make it back to Big Mom. But he does, and there's a sigh of relief that comes from Big Mom here, as well as an air of anger towards Zeus, who it appears has been the weak link for some time now. And what I really enjoyed here is even though Prometheus, Zeus and Napoleon have Big Mom's soul in them, they all seem to have their own brain and seem to have their own thoughts as well, as Oda hints on Prometheus turning on Zeus here. Could it be that Prometheus is asking Big Mom for the soul that she's given to Zeus to be given to him? Let's see. But now we get into the hype of this chapter, as Killer and Kid halt at the edge of Onigashima as the clouds begin to start moving. And Kaido is laughing in the background at Luffy, laid out on the floor, unconscious, but still being able to feel the presence of him glaring at him. And Kaido, being sick of Luffy, starts talking smack, saying he's going to go finish him off, because this is just like the last time. But you can't do that when Luffy's right hand man is around, because Zoro tells Law that he's at his limit and his next attack will be his last. And quite frankly, if it doesn't work, he'll be dead. And I absolutely loved this, because time and time again, we've seen Zoro put his life on the line for his captain, and with Luffy knocked out here, he looks to do it again, as the long-awaited Ashura is re-revealed. The 9-sword style, fast off the dead, and my goodness, I was so hyped at this point. We've all been crying out for Zoro to use Ashura again, and 500 chapters later, here we are. And finally, I can say that Zoro has finally gone all out. And you know what? Kudos to Zoro, because he definitely hurt Kaido here. Kaido questions whether Zoro has Conqueror's Haki, which literally confused the F out of me. But I'm glad it wasn't just me, and it was also Zoro, because Zoro was like, what are you on about? I just gave that attack my everything, just hoping that it would be enough to take you down. In which Kaido's response was, well, it will leave a scar. And man, even though Zoro did so well here, Kaido's still trolling, because he's like, you gave your everything just to scar me. Which should definitely be a feat for you though. LOL. But what I think is going to be the most interesting thing to come from this encounter is whether Zoro has Conqueror's Haki, because we learn a little bit more about it later. But at this point, where Zoro's incapacitated and coughing up blood, Law comes out of nowhere to go and support him, and he's very quickly humbled as he receives that Thunder Bagua from Kaido. And at this point in the story, Kaido's just flexing, because he's walking around as they're all just laying on the ground, talking about how annoying this generation are, and that had they just all joined him, they could have just taken over the world. Obviously with Kaido as the leader. But you could not write this better, because it appears that Luffy has stood up, and he's having flashbacks of his training with Hyogoro and Haki blooming in the midst of battle, as he goes on to tell Kaido that they would never have joined him, as the samurai are their friends. But more importantly, he's figured it all out. He's figured out that he's been covering his attacks in Conqueror's Haki, which is to Kaido's amusement, because he says that there's only a few people that can do it, as he coats up his club with Conqueror's Haki and goes to attack Luffy, only to be met by Luffy attacking Kaido too with Conqueror's Haki. And honestly, I loved this panel. The non-touching coat of Haki that we've seen from all of the top tiers, time and time again. Roger and Whitebeard, Shanks and Whitebeard, Big Mom and Kaido, and now Luffy has entered that category. He is now tussling with Kaido one-on-one, and his confidence is back through the roof. And if you don't believe me, Law is even there watching in amazement, as Luffy tells him that they should all just go back down and leave it to him. And honestly, at this point, I'm like, what? But what's even more hype here is the final panel, where Luffy says, tell everyone, I got this. And man, I love this chapter. I want to talk about so much that happened here, but just the hype that occurred in this chapter means that I'll stop for now. I mean, does Zoro have Conqueror's Haki? Can Luffy really fight Kaido 1v1? And what's next for Kid and Killer? I love how Kid and Killer had faith in each other to believe that they can go and take on Big Mom, and I think they'll definitely be getting their time to shine too. But the real talk in this chapter is going to be all about that Conqueror's Haki stuff, because Zoro and Luffy and what we're seeing here is a true evolution, peak fiction at its finest. But I'm going to end things here. We're on break next week, but after a chapter like that, I have no complaints. There's going to be so many videos over the next week that just dissects the chapter, and I'll probably be one of the individuals that goes on to dissect the official once it drops on Sunday. But let me know your thoughts. Does Zoro have Conqueror's Haki? And if so, what's your explanation behind it? Also, do you guys and girls think that Luffy can now fight 1v1 against Kaido? But as always, if you like anything I've had to say, please make sure you leave a like on the video, and if you want to support me, make sure you subscribe to the channel and turn on bell notifications so you never miss out when I drop more content just like this. Say